welcome to RTO with Iain. Welcome to the beginning of another week. Here in the UK it's bank holiday, and as most bank holidays in this country, we have been a dull day. Not much happening out there, it's not even sunny. So I'm going to warm you up with a little bit of Grand Funk Railroad. Now this band has been sort of requested, but it was always an intention of mine to do these at some stage. American rock band. They were very popular in the 70s. They toured a lot. I think they're still touring now, although they haven't made an album. They got their name, which is a play on words, of the Grand Trunk Western Railroad that runs through their hometown of Flint in Michigan. They've been a trio, and then they went to a four. I think they're still a four-piece now. But the original lineup was Don Brewer, Mel Sasha, and Mark Fauna, very underrated guitar player. And they have released 13 albums, so just one short of a marathon. 13's a very funny number for me. You know, it's long, but it's not 14. So here we go. So coming in at number 13, we have 13th album released in 1983. What's Funk? As I said, they have continued to tour, but this is the last studio album full of new material. It's a three-piece. It's Mark Fauna on guitars, lead and backing vocals and keyboards, Dennis Bellinger on the bass, and Don Brewer drums, lead vocals and percussion. First track on here is called Rock and Roll American Style. It's not a bad track. I like the track, but as usual, it's called 80s production. Yeah, it just spoils it, because it is a really good track. I've heard it live and it sounds really good live. Nowhere to Run is a cover, of course, of Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. It's not a bad version of the song, I suppose. Dennis Bellinger plays a good little bass line on it. Innocent. Oh, lots of horrible 80s keyboard that just doesn't fit this band. Still writing. This is great. This is proper Grand Funk. Probably the best track on the album. Great stuff from Don on this. Great drumming and great singing. Borderline. It just sounds like the Eagles. It's all right, but it's not what I expect. Then we get El Salvador. Good little rocker this is. It's got some really good riffs here from Mark Fauna, and I like that one. Then we get a version of James Brown's It's a Man's World. I think that Don does a great vocal on it, but it's not James Brown, is it? It's not too bad. It's I'm So True. Oh dear. You got a Casio thing. You know the beginning of that song by Trio, da da da, that bump, bump. What's going on there? It just doesn't fit on the song. I don't like it. Don't Lie to Me, one of the better tracks on this album. Got some really strong guitar riffs and Mark. Excellent track. And then the last track on here is Life in Outer Space. Very, very good track. It's a bit of a hit and miss, this one. I mean, it's got some solid rockers on it, but what lets us down is the outrageous 80s production on it. The two covers are okay. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay then, coming in at number 12, we have the 10th album released in 1976, Born to Die. On here we've got Mark Fauna on the guitars and vocals, Craig Frost has joined them on the keyboards and background vocals, Mel Sasha on the bass, Don Brewer as ever on the drums and vocals. Guest musicians on here are Jimmy Hall, saxophone and harmonica, and Donna Hall on backing vocals. Opens up with the title track, Born to Die. Love Mel's bass on here. He is such a great bass player for this band. It's quite mellow as well. It's got a great groove on that bass. Doos, love the start of this. That rich Hammond organ from Craig Frost and Mel's bass line. Pretty good track. Sally, love the harmonica in this. Jimmy Hall, it's pretty good. I Fell for Your Love. Fauna's guitar work in this is absolutely spot on, and what I like about it as well, you've got Craig Frost, who made a really impact on this band with these creative keyboard swirls. It's a little bit funky. Talk to the People, one of my favourite tracks on here. Mark's solo on it is really good. It's got some excellent harmonies in it as well. Take Me is the next track. It's got little elements of prog in this. I love the guitar and keyboards in this. Really good song. Genevieve, that's an instrumental song. Great drumming here from Don. Really good. Love Is Dying, solid track. Politician, love the riff at the beginning of that, it's terrific. And then Good Things, Fauna is on Fire. This is a good album. It's a little bit funky for me, and that's why I don't play it so much, but I do like a lot of the tracks on this. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Coming in at number 11, probably one of the worst album covers. All the Girls in the World Beware, definitely with that cover. It's the 9th album and it was released in 1974. It was their second release of 1974. This came out in December. We've got Mark Fauna again, Craig Frost, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Responsibility, love the piano work here from Craig Frost. Really funky sound on it, great track. Running, love Don's drumming on this, terrific drummer. Got some horns in here, but it should be a 70s cop show more than anything. It's not my favourite track, but I do like the drumming. Life, Mark Fauna's guitar work on this is brilliant, great stuff. Look at Granny Run Run, Little Rocker, nothing wrong with that one. Memories, it's a slow track that I'm not very keen on, although it has got some nice harmonies. All the Girls in the World Beware, not keen on it. It just sums up this album cover and this song. Pretty awful. Wild, I think the horns work well on this. Good and Evil, it's got a bit of that Santana feel to it. I love that bluesy sound with a rich Hammond organ and some great guitar work from Mark Fauna. Bad Time, it's alright. Some Kind of Wonderful, got a great bass line on it. This album, it's got some strong tracks on it, don't get me wrong, but there are some pretty mediocre ones on it as well, and some of them are a little bit too funky for me, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, coming in at number 10 we have the 5th album released in 1971, Pluribus Funk. It's a 3-piece again. on this one. We got Mark Fauna, Mel Sasha, and or Sacha, not quite how to pronounce that, and Don Brewer. Foot stomping music. It is what it says on the tin here. Great bass line from Mel, and you got some keyboards here from Mark as well. It's just a great little track. People, Let's Stop the War. I do love the guitar work on this. It is terrific. I think it's a little bit of a protest song, but there you go. Upsetter. Bass on this again. Funky guitars. Great stuff. I love that track. I Come Tumbling. It sort of meanders around. It doesn't do anything fantastic for me. Save the Land. My favourite track on here. It's got a great opening riff. Some of Don's great drumming, and his singing on this is terrific as well. Great track. No Lies. Great riffs. Great guitar solo. Terrific track. Loneliness. I love the vocals on this. It's a pretty good track. Nice way to end the album. Again, I think this is a very good album. This band is very consistent. They never put out a bad album in their career. There's always been some good tracks on every album. It's been very hard to rank these. But this one, again, it's pretty solid. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.8. Okay, coming in number 9. We have the 11th album, released in 1976. Good Singin, Good Playin. The band had actually broken up, but a certain Mr. Frank Zappa expressed interest in producing an album for them, so they reassembled for one more attempt at success. On here we got the 4-piece version of the band: Mark Fauna, Craig Frost, Mel Sasha, Don Brewer, and of course guest guitaring on one of the tracks is Frank Zappa, and some backing vocals as well. And he obviously produced the album. First track on here is called Just Couldn't Wait. This has got a really catchy tune. I love the vocal from Don Brewer on this. His drumming's pretty good. Great stuff. Can You Do It? There's some tomfoolery at the beginning of this track, and it's got turns into a great little rocker. Excellent track. The Frank Zappa influence is definitely on that one. Pass It Around, solid track. Great musicianship on that. Great stuff. Don't Let Them Take Your Gun. That's alright. Not one of the weirder tracks on the album, but it's okay. Miss My Baby. Really strong track. Great guitar work here from Mark Fauna. My favourite on the album. Absolutely stonking track. Then we get 30 Seconds of Nonsense. What you expect when Frank Zappa's involved. Called Big Buns. Yeah. Then we get Rubberneck. This has got the delicate backing vocals of Mr. Frank Zappa. It's just typical Frank Zappa, really. I don't mind that track at all. Get Out to Get You. Now this is Frank Zappa's solo on this. It's absolutely brilliant. What a good guitar player Frank was. He was quite a genius at times, coming out with some weird and wonderful stuff, but always a great guitarist. Crossfire. Again, some really nice harmonies and guitar work on this. Then we get 1976. This is a great rock track. The vocals are on here are brilliant. That high pitched vocal sounds great. Absolutely brilliant. Release Your Love, great little rocker. And then Going for the Pasta. Not the pasta as in what we eat, but a pasta as in a vicar type person. One of my favourite tracks on the album. Really strong riffs in that. I think this is a really good album. I'm so glad that Frank Zappa convinced them to make it. His input was truly welcomed, and it sort of gave him a bit of a buzz. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 8, we go to the 4th album, called Survival, released in April 1971. It was produced by Terry Knight. Now, Don Brewer was never happy with the sound of his drums on this, and I totally agree with him. This was due to Terry Knight's insistence of having Brewer cover his drum heads with tea towels, just like he'd seen Ringo Starr do it. Worked for the Beatles, but didn't work for Don, because Don's a hard-hitting drummer. You can't keep this guy quiet. So this was a 3-piece version of the band. Mark Fauna, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Country Road opens up the album. Great bass line from Mel. It's really good. But the drums, they sound horrible. Absolutely horrible. What was Terry Knight thinking? How can you keep a drummer like of Don Brewer's capabilities and throw tea towels all over his drum kit? It just spoils the track. All You've Got Is Money. This one's not too bad. The drums are still a little bit muffled, but it's a good track, and I don't think it spoils it that much. Comfort Me. Great guitar work from Mark Fauna. Terrific guitar work on this one. The drums again, it just sound muffled, and because it's got a good beat, this one, but it just them drums. Then we get Feeling Alright, which is a Traffic song. Of course, the bass line is terrific, the sound effects are great. But what I like about this, although the drums sound muffled, you can't muffle cymbals. And Don really gives them cymbals some wally, and it's really, really good. I Want Freedom. This is a great track. I think the drums are not too bad on here, but again, he really does hit the cymbals and the hi-hats, and they just sound really good. I Can Feel Him in the Morning. Again, great guitar work, great bass line, terrible drums. And the album ends up with a cover of Gimme Shelter from the Stones. I don't like this version, although Mel's bass line's pretty good. This has got some really good tracks on it, but again, put the tea towels on poor old Don's kit didn't help. Terry Knight needed shooting for that. I've heard some of these tracks live, and again, they sound much better. And when you listen to some of these tracks live, you can tell that Don really hits them hard just to prove that we didn't need to put tea towels on our drums, I think. Well, that's how I look at it anyway. But it's I'm not going to take away the drums from it, because that wasn't Don's fault. But I like the tracks on this album, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in at number 7 then, we go to the 12th album, released in 1981. It was the first album since they disbanded in 76. Although it was a reunion album, it did not feature Mel Sasha or Craig Frost, and it was the first to feature Dennis Bellinger on the bass, and the only one to feature keyboardist Lance Duncan Ong. So Grand Funk Lives was Mark Fauna, Lance Duncan Ong, Dennis Bellinger and Don Brewer. First track is called Good Times. I like this track. This really goes back to the good old days. Excellent track. Queen Bee, love the keyboards on this, absolutely brilliant. Great stuff from Lance Duncan Ong, really good. Testify, my favourite track on the album. Love the rich guitar from Mark Fauna, and as ever, Don's vocals and drumming are fantastic. Can't Be With You Tonight, probably the weakest track in my mind on this. It's not very good. No Reason Why, great little warrocker this is. Mark's guitar work as good as ever. Then We've Got to Get Out of This Place. Classic song. Love that the bass line from Dennis on this. Great track. Then we get U, which is spelled Y.O.U. Solid enough track. Stuck in the Middle's pretty solid. Greed of a Man, nice little rocker. Got some great riffs from Mark on that one. Wait for Me, the last track on the album, nice guitar work, excellent. I think this is a really good album, and I think it's very underrated. It's got lots of great rock tracks and Wanna Come Back. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.6. Okay, then coming in at number 6, we get to the third album released in 1970, Closer to Home. So this is the classic three-piece of Mark, Fauna, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Sin is a good man's brother. This is a great track. This has got a very Led Zeppelin feel to it in places. Great vocal from Don. I love that track. Very good. Aimless Lady. Again, another great track. Great drumming from Don on this. And Mel's bass line is terrific. Nothing Is the Same. One of Mel's great bass lines on this. Drives the song along. And you've got Mark's guitar work entwining with the bass line. Great song. Mean Mistreater. Piano on this is brilliant for Mark Fauna. It's a bit off the wall, but it makes a really good track. Get It Together. It's an okay track, but I love the organ on that. Really good. I Don't Have to Sing the Blues. Really strong track again. Really nice catchy tune this is. Great guitar work as usual. Hooked on Love. My favourite track on the album. Got some great guitar work in this. I love Mel's bass line as well. Absolutely brilliant. Then we get the last track, I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home. Solid rock track. Typical sort of grand funk song. Another solid album. Not a bad track on this at all. Solid top to bottom rock songs and bluesy type songs. 8.8 for this one. It's just a terrific album. These top 6 are very hard to rank because they're all got great merits on all of them. Okay, coming in at number 5, we go to the first album that was released in 74 in March. 8th album, Shinin On. Got Mark Fauna, Craig Frost, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Shinin On. Love that opening riff from Mark. Absolutely belter. To Get Back In. Great vocal from Don Brewer here. And then you get that great keyboard swirl from Craig. The horn sounds good on this. It's a terrific track. Then we get Little Levers, The Locomotion. The only good thing about it is Mark Fauna's guitar solo. Apart from that, it's awful. Carry Me Through. Really heavy in places. The guitar work on this is terrific. Please Me. Harmonica on this absolutely adds to this track. Gives it an extra depth. My Pretty Boy. Bluesy number. My favourite on the album. I love the piano on this from Craig Frost. Really adds to the atmosphere of this blues track. Getting Over You. Don Brewer's drumming is just dynamite on this. Got that lovely rich organ sound from Craig. Then Fauna's guitar work. Can't get any better than that really. Little Johnny Hooker. Great track. Riffs, solo, brilliant. Great way to end the album. Okay, apart from that awful version of The Locomotion, the rest of the album is just solid. Top to bottom. not a bad track apart from the locomotion, as I said. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 4 we have the 6th album, released in 1972, Phoenix. This is the three-piece version with Mark Fauna, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Got some guest musicians, and it was the first time that you would hear Craig Frost on a Grand Funk album, and Doug Korsher plays the electric violin. Flight of the Phoenix opens up the album. Just love the start. That organ sounds brilliant on this. Very catchy. Reminds me of Deep Purple's Lazy. Really good track. Trying to Get Away. Again, I just love Craig Frost's organ. And that rich guitar as well. Craig Frost, Mark Fauna work well together. Excellent track. Someone, again, great track. You've got the clarinet on this, which really adds to it. Great track. She Got to Move Me. The inclusion of Craig Frost on this album just is amazing, because it's got that deep, rich organ sound that really adds to this track. Absolutely brilliant. As ever, you've got great bass on it, great drums, terrific. Then we get Rain Keeps Falling. I love the start of this with that wah-wah pedal. It's very proggy in places, and I do like this one a lot. I Just Gotta Know. Highlights on this are the drumming and the keyboards. Again, it just adds to it. It's so funky, really good stuff. So You Won't Have to Die. Some lovely delicate guitar work here on the acoustic guitar. Just shows the versatility of Mark Fauna. And you got this rock sound as well, and it keeps going between this nice gentle acoustic guitar back into the rock stuff. Pretty good track. Freedom Is for Children, my favourite track. It's very progressive, this one is. You get that gentle prog sound. Again, you get the rock stuff as well. It just intermingles really well. Then we have Gotta Find Me a Better Day. It's not the best track on the album. It just sits there okay. It's not brilliant. Then the last track, Rock and Roll Song. What adds to this is that keyboards again, and the rich guitar work. Brilliant. I love this album. I think the inclusion of Craig Frost on the keyboards really gave a boost. Some nice textures on this. He played some fine keyboard throughout the album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.2. Okay then, coming in at number 3, we've reached the top 3. Again, any of these could be number 1. They're just great albums. We got the debut album then, On Time, released in 1969. Mark Fauna, Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Are You Ready? Solid opener. Really funky bass in places. Absolutely terrific track. Anybody's Answer. I love the quiet start of this. You've got a lovely piece of bass on this, and it works up into this great rock track. Some great singing from Don on this and on the drums. Then it goes back into that really quiet piece again. Really strong track. Time Machine. Just love the guitar on this. It's got a bluesy feel to it. Really good. High on a Horse. Fantastic track. That opening riff for Mark Fauna. Brilliant. Then we get my favourite track on here, and it's TNUC. Great playing by all 3 of them. Awesome musicians. Mel's brilliant bass line. The solid drumming and the heavy sounding drums from Don, and then you've got the brilliant guitar pieces from Mark. Brilliant track. One of the longer tracks. It's a fantastic track. Into the Sun, got a very Santana feel to this. Love the guitar work and that Latino sound, really good. Heartbreaker. It's not a bad track. It's got some nice little quieter pieces on this track, some more heavy stuff, isn't it? It's alright. Bit weird, but solid enough. Can't Be Too Long, another great track. Raw as you like, some great guitar work. Last track, Ups and Downs, one of Mel's solid bass lines, some crushing drums from Donald, and a nice vocal. Love this album as well. Great debut. Got some solid tracks on this. Not a bad track on it. I'll give this one an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay, coming in at number 2, we have the second album released on the 27th of December 1969, Grand Funk, or as people want to call it, the Red Album. It's called Grand Funk, not the Red Album. Okay, the cover's red. That's the only thing that's the Red Album. No, to me it's Grand Funk. Always will be. It's the 3-piece again. Mark, Mel and Don. First track on here has got This Thing on the Move. Classic song. Love this one to death. Great vocal from Don. Please Don't Worry. The driving bass line from Mel is just brilliant. It taps your feet to it. It's really good. It's an amazing track. Highfalutin Woman. The riff on this is just brilliant. It's a proper boogie rock track. Love that track to death. Mr. Limousine Driver. One of the best tracks on the album. What riffs in this. Driving riffs. Great sound. In Need. Mr. Fauna's guitar work on this. Terrific. Absolutely spot on. Winter and My Song. Now Mel puts a great bass line in this. It's a bit different. The drumming's good. Fantastic track. Paranoid. Nothing to do with Black Sabbath, of course. Love Don's vocal on this. Absolutely brilliant. Great bass line as ever. And then they do a cover of the Animals song, Inside Looking Out. I love this version. They do this version justice, and if you didn't know it was a Animal song, you think what a great song by the band, but they do a great version of it. And I think this is a great album again, solid top to bottom, absolute belters on this. Play this album a lot, it's just brilliant. I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 9.5. So, number 1. 7th album, released in 1973, We're an American Band. Probably the most boringest cover on the planet, but what an album. This is Mark Fauna. Craig Frost, this is his first album as an official member of Grand Funk. Mel Sasha and Don Brewer. Opens up with their classic We're an American Band. This was the first track I ever heard by this band, and I thought it was brilliant, and I still do. Great track. Stop Looking Back. Really good track. If it wasn't for the keyboards though, I think it'd be an ordinary track, but the keyboards make it a great track. Creeping, so soulful. The guitar effects on this are brilliant. Let me get an interesting track called Black Licorice. Really strong track, really different, but a great vocal from Don on that one. The Railroad. Craig's keyboards in this are just brilliant. I love that combination of Craig and Mark working well together. That's just phenomenal. Now some of this keyboard work reminds me of a Marillion song called The Party off the Holidays in Eden album. I just wonder if they stole it from Grand Funk, because it's very, very similar. Still a great track though, it's my favourite on the album. Ain't Got Nobody. Mel's bass line is just booming on this. It's a great little track. Walk Like a Man, another great track. I love this. I've heard it live and it's absolutely stonking live. Great riffs in this, terrific. Loneliness Rider, I just love that keyboard on that. It's just brilliant. Heavy guitar riff, some great drumming. Okay, I love this album for two reasons. I love the opening track, We're an American Band. This is the first album I really heard by Grand Funk, and I just love it. There's not a bad track on this. And when you listen to the rest of them, I think this is when they were at their peak. This is just an ultimate Grand Funk album, and it's, if you've never heard them before, this is play this one first, because it blows your socks off. Then play Grand Funk, and then On Time. Play them three first, and then just gradually go back. That's what I did, and as I said, I don't think they've made a bad album. There's always been some great tracks, especially even on that last album they made in the studio. It's still got the excellence from stuff from this album. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9.6. Okay, hope you've enjoyed that one. I know there's one or two of my regulars that are really into this band. Terrific band. Listen to them quite a lot if I want a bit of rock. So I'll be back later with classic album, and we have got a classic this week. One of my favourite psychedelic rock albums of all time. I'm talking about Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane. Whatever, they've changed their name so many times. It's a brilliant album, and I'll be talking about that later. So until then, bye for now.